Hey friends, it's Life Coach Rich. Another business lesson here is, and we thought about it and thought about it at that time, but we were looking at the future. Okay, I took a massive pay cut to work at this, to sell the business and to work at this other company. And you say, okay, well, you got some money from selling the business, so what are you worried about the pay cut for? Well, it's because if we would have continued with our own company, we wouldn't have taken a pay cut. Okay. So you've got to think of it from a longer term perspective. Okay. So I took about a $60,000 per year pay cut. And so that was not great. And we're like, okay, well, that was just stupid. Why did you do that? Well, here's why we did it, because we were talking with the owner that was going to buy our company and another company. And I was coming on as general manager to merge the two companies together. So we were looking at 3-year, 5-year, 10-year plans. So part of that is, as the business grew, then I had negotiated to get a portion of the gross revenue. So as the company grew and scaled, then I would get more of a bonus at the end of the year related to the amount of revenue coming in. And the new owner wanted me to, initially did not like that. He wanted it, and this is again negotiating in his favor, not in my favor. So something that we did stand up on is, okay, he wanted to only pay me and compensate me for new customers coming on. And so we're like, okay, well, we're merging these two companies together. They're completely different. There's completely different structure and stuff. What if we don't have any new customers? Then I don't get any bonus. And so then I'm only at this amount instead of this amount for that position plus a certain amount. And then as it scaled, it wouldn't, wouldn't get bigger until we got to a point of adding a lot of new customers. So, but within the first year or two, you're just trying to make everything stable. And that proved completely true. And so I was told that my leadership was no longer wanted there, after a year and 4 months into it. So a year and 4 months, like the first year, then we lost and lost and lost and lost customers and lost because we basically, a lot of them were below market standards. So whenever all of these people were getting real deal, we were losing money on a lot of accounts, which was completely stupid management from the other management's perspective, right? How do you run a company whenever you're losing money on many accounts? It's just stupid. And they had to supplement that part of their business from another part of their business that they had, and they had to take out loans. There was all kind of loans and stuff that were. I think maybe they were just doing things to try to make the numbers look better, and maybe the owner got a little bit taken on that perspective. But our company was run well, and our numbers all were great. We were profitable, and we could show the margins and stuff like that. And we didn't have any loans. All the new trucks that we had bought were paid for with cash. And well, I mean, we weren't buying new trucks, so we would always buy used trucks. So back to what I was saying, as far as taking a pay cut, you've got to look at the long-term ramifications of that, and then the short term. You want to try to negotiate, if at all possible, for you to have a buyout. If they choose to get rid of you after a certain period of time, or even if you choose, maybe if you choose to leave, then there might not necessarily be a buyout. But if they say it's time for you to go and you're not doing anything illegal, immoral, not creating a toxic work environment, that kind of stuff, then you need to be able to be okay with the departure. Instead of feeling used and manipulated, you want to write it into the contract in sort of worst case scenario. And then also, I'm thinking about this sort of 5-year to 10-year kind of thing, making more money as the company scaled. But I was told to leave after only a year and 4 months. And so that was completely in their interest, not completely in my interest. So then that first year, then we've lost $60,000 in potential revenue that we could have had. Why? Only because they said, well, we can only pay this amount for this position. Well, okay, I understand that. Well, what's the compensation that I'm going to be guaranteed going forward? Well, we can't guarantee any compensation. Well, then why in the world does it make sense for me to take that massive of a pay cut? So you either have to guarantee me certain revenue, or you have to help guarantee me certain longevity of me working there. If I choose to leave, then fine. Then I choose to leave. If I say, like, I can't stand working with you anymore, I want to go ahead and leave. Well, there doesn't necessarily need to be a buyout there. But if they choose to say bye-bye, and but only after a short period of time, well, I mean, what does that look like? It looks like it looks like that the plan was to just get rid of you after a certain period of time. You come in, you make everything stable, and then we'll just get rid of you. Um, and then we want to try to have somebody else do your job that's getting paid less. Um, and so that, I mean, that happens to companies all the time. That happens to people that have been there that are industry experts, but they're at the top of the salary, right? They're at the top of because of their experience in that field. They're towards the top of the salary range, and so then they get rid of them, and then promote somebody and that doesn't have near as much experience and expertise in that area. Why? Because it makes the company more profitable. So, so in a sense, we got taken advantage of. Um, and I feel manipulated and used in that process. And it was just because I was a little bit naive. So I'm trying to make some videos about business lessons to think about. You want to have a lawyer look at it from your perspective and have your interest in mind. And so then if the 5 years that y'all are planning to work together, 10 years you're planning to work together, and this is scaling, and then you're going to be making way more than what you're giving up in the short term, then that's okay. But what if it doesn't work out in the short term? What if it doesn't work out? And then so now you're 2-3 years after only 2 or 3 years, then you're told to leave. You have no negotiating power because you're just at will employee. Um, then is it? I want you to think about a win-win situation instead of they win and you lose situation. So think about it from that perspective. Have a compensation package in place, written down in the contract, or else don't sign it. If they're not willing, it's sort of like in hindsight, it's so clear now. Why didn't we demand that? Why didn't we think about it from the worst case scenario? Well, because we were so excited about what we can build together with the merged companies. And so you're only thinking about that. You're emotionally invested. And so when you think about that and you're emotionally invested, when you're only thinking about that, you're not thinking about what happens if. And I'm not saying thinking about it from a negative perspective. I don't think that the people that bought the company, had ill intentions or anything, but it did show that they had all the power and I could do nothing whenever they said it was time for me to go. Even though I wasn't doing anything immoral, illegal, didn't create a bad environment. Multiple employees there said that I was the best boss they've ever had, and you know. So I don't want you to think about it with rose-colored glasses and the potential money. That's what happens when we think about potential money, instead of sort of worst-case scenario of if this short period of time happens and then I'm told to leave, what's the buyout part? You compensate me so that I'm not losing money in the long term because I don't have to sell. Like we could have just gone on and then we'd have been fine and not taken a massive pay cut and then been out a certain amount of money. Even with me going and going into a different field or something, then it's going to take time to rebuild the salary compensation that I was at before. So it was just a naive thing, and I'm trying to make a few business lessons so that you don't be as naive as I was.